He wasn't supposed to be there, at least, that's what they told him. A black man standing in the wrong place, at the wrong time, holding nothing but his pride and a half-finished cup of coffee. In just 5 minutes, a simple misunderstanding would turn into a public spectacle. Sirens, shouting, and a truth too ugly to ignore. Everyone had their phones out. No one had the courage to speak. Because when justice wears a blindfold, some faces are still seen differently. What really happened that day? And why did the world only see half the story? It was a quiet morning in Atlanta, the kind that carried the smell of rain and routine. Elijah Carter, a 38-year-old black CEO, had just finished his jog, the same route he took every day before heading to his downtown office. He liked the peace before the noise, the brief moments when the world felt fair. He'd built his company from scratch, earned respect in boardrooms that weren't made for men like him, and carried himself with calm confidence. But beneath that confidence lived the memory of every time he'd been followed in a store. Every time a smile couldn't erase suspicion. That morning, he didn't know someone was watching again. Only this time, it wasn't about business. And before the sun set, his name would become a headline. Elijah was running late that afternoon, traffic lights flashing red, his phone buzzing with reminders about a board meeting he couldn't miss. Dressed in his tailored grey suit, he looked every bit the successful businessman he had fought to become. But success, for a black man in America, never came without shadows. He stopped at a small cafe near his office, one he visited often. The cashier greeted him with a polite nod, but the new security guard by the door didn't. The man's hand rested on his belt, not aggressively, just ready. Elijah noticed it, brushed it off. He'd learned to ignore that kind of tension. It was safer to. Minutes later, as he walked toward his parked car, the sound of shouting broke the calm. Across the street, a luxury sedan had rolled into a lamppost. Smoke hissed from the hood, and a well-dressed white man stumbled out, shouting for help. People froze, staring. No one moved. Elijah did. He rushed across the street, instinct kicking in. "Are you okay?" he called out, helping the man to the curb. The man's hands trembled. His phone slipped from his pocket. Elijah picked it up, placed it beside him. Small, human gestures that shouldn't have mattered. But then came the sirens. 2 police cruisers screeched to a stop. Officers jumped out, guns drawn before words were spoken. And in that split second, the scene flipped. The injured man pointed weakly toward Elijah. He was near my car. Elijah's heart stuttered. I was helping him. Hands where I can see them. People started recording. Phones lifted like silent weapons. He could feel every lens slicing through him. Judgment before truth. The officers moved fast, barking orders that tangled into noise. He raised his hands, voice steady but shaking inside. "My name is Elijah Carter. I own. On your knees. Now." He didn't resist. He couldn't afford to. His mind raced through headlines, through the faces of men who didn't live long enough to explain. A crowd gathered, whispers mixing with fear. "Wait, isn't that the guy from the news? The tech company owner?" Someone murmured, but no one stepped forward. No one said the words that could have stopped what came next. The officer slammed him against the pavement, the coarse concrete burning his cheek. His briefcase spilled open, business cards, a tablet, his ID, evidence of everything he was, scattered like lies. The injured man tried to speak. He was helping me. But his voice was too faint, drowned out by authority. In that moment, Elijah realized something. Success couldn't buy safety. Respect couldn't erase suspicion. And as the handcuffs clicked shut, a single thought echoed in his head, heavier than the metal on his wrists. It doesn't matter who I am. To them, I'm just another black man on the ground. But this time, the world was watching. And the truth, raw, painful, undeniable, was about to surface. The air was thick, not with smoke, but silence. The kind that follows chaos, the kind that makes your heart beat louder than sirens. Elijah knelt on the hot asphalt, wrists cuffed tight behind him. Sweat stung his eyes as an officer's knee pressed harder into his back. Cameras were everywhere now, a dozen angles, 100 witnesses, and yet, it still felt like no one saw him. "Stop resisting." Someone shouted, but he wasn't moving. He hadn't since the moment they took him down. His voice cracked, calm but desperate. "Please. I didn't do anything." The injured white man across the street tried again to stand, waving weakly toward the officers. He helped me, he gasped. But his words dissolved into the noise, swallowed by the chaos that follows injustice. One officer leaned closer, his shadow swallowing Elijah's face. You people always have an excuse, he muttered, voice dripping with something colder than anger. And then, the camera caught it, the trembling hand on Elijah's neck, the flash of panic in his eyes. A woman in the crowd screamed, "He's not fighting. Let him breathe." That moment froze time. Because for Elijah, it wasn't just about breath. It was about being seen, about proving that his life, his existence, was more than a threat, more than a statistic waiting to be justified. The white man finally stumbled forward, shouting now, "He saved me. Let him go." But it was too late. The damage was done. The cuffs were on. The images were already online. And as Elijah was lifted to his feet, bruised, humiliated, but alive, he looked at the sea of faces, half curious, half indifferent. The realization cut deeper than the pain. They wouldn't believe the truth until they saw it edited, posted, and shared. But when they did, the world would never unsee it. Elijah was released hours later. No apology, no explanation. Just paperwork, bruises, and silence. The same silence that always follows when justice pretends it doesn't know what happened. By the time he got home, the video had already gone viral. Millions watched it, the fall of a man who did everything right, yet still ended up face down on the pavement. The internet called it another tragedy. But for Elijah, it wasn't another. It was his life, reduced to a clip, debated by strangers who'd never felt a gun pointed at their truth. Reporters showed up at his office. Some wanted a quote. Others wanted a headline. The investors backed away quietly, afraid of bad publicity. Yet through the noise, something shifted. The man whose life he saved spoke publicly, trembling on live television, admitting his own guilt, his own blindness. "He didn't hurt me," he said. "He helped me, and I let them hurt him for it." That confession cracked something open. Not the system, not yet, but the illusion that silence keeps anyone safe. Elijah didn't want revenge. He wanted recognition, not for himself, but for every black man who's ever had to prove he deserves to exist in peace. He returned to work weeks later, different, quieter, heavier, but unbroken. And when a young intern nervously whispered, "Sir, I saw what they did to you. I'm so sorry." Elijah just nodded. "Don't be sorry," he said. "Be aware." Because his story wasn't unique, it was a mirror, a reflection of what happens when fear holds more power than truth. So now the question isn't what happened to Elijah Carter. The real question is, how many more Elijahs will it take before we finally say, enough?